independence, and today we're going to talk about truth. And oftentimes, we don't get the truth. We don't get the truth from schools. We don't get the truth from churches. We don't get the truth from the media. And whenever you bring up, or when anybody brings up anything in the media that is counter the official line, whatever the official line is, it doesn't even seem to matter. It seems that they get stepped on. I have a 75-year-old neighbor who he walked across Europe after World War II, and he was just a boy during World War II, and he's Hungarian, and he's got a great mantra, and he's like, I love this country. I've been an American citizen. I served in the military, but he goes, you know what? The world runs on bullshit. Bottom line, he goes, it doesn't matter what it is, the world runs on bullshit. And to talk about bullshit, if you call it out, whenever you call it out, people call you a conspiracy theorist. When you bring to light even government's own documents, they call you a conspiracy theorist. And then people try to marginalize and smear you. But it's kind of an interesting place to be that if you want to spread the truth, people resent it. People don't want to hear the truth. And today on the show, I am blessed with the editor of the NewWorldOrderReport.com. His name is Jonathan Elinoff. He's owner of Elinoff Entertainment. He is a documentarian. He writes movies and develops and produces movies exposing the truth. He's done a lot of really, really cool stuff, and I want to talk to him today about a couple of his videos that delve into conspiracies. So, Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rob, for having me on.
Well, I'm glad that you're here, and I've known you for a while, and you do some really good stuff. So I wanted to get kind of an update on some of your projects. I heard, before we get into it, give the listeners a little background on how you got into not only understanding and being knowledgeable about conspiracies, but how did you get into producing documentaries to begin with?
I was always into film growing up, kind of like a trade in my family, but I just kind of, my big thing was when I was a kid, I was really into Kennedy research. I was fascinated by it, and because I had known ever since I was a young child that there was the House Select Committee on Assassinations, and it was always understood in my mind that there were two congressional investigations into Kennedy's death. And everyone always talks about the Warren Commission. I always said,
right.
Well, how come the House Select Committee on Assassinations is not treated with the same level of credibility? They're both government investigations. And basically, I got the impression that nobody knew about it. And so I got this, from there I just started looking at, well, what conspiracies are proven and what are not proven, which are credible and so forth and so on. And that really kind of led me into 9/11, of course, and some other things. And because I was in Israel in 2001 in a military program there, touring the country, and I had taken anti-terror courses and learned about Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade. I'd learned about terrorist networks,
right?
And it was always understood, even when I was taking the courses in Israel, that Al-Qaeda was the Mujahideen. And so when I came back, 2 weeks later after I came back from Israel, 9/11 happened. And the first thing I said was, wait a second, Al-Qaeda did this? I mean, we're talking, that's a phenomenal coincidence that the people who created the Mujahideen, all of them, at the time of Iran-Contra, at that exact time we were backing the Nicaraguan Contras, we were backing bin Laden at the same time, in that same network, those same people, Poindexter and all those guys, Armitage and all that, are all in office under Bush, And I just thought it was interesting that their guy attacked us. They said he went rogue, but it was always my understanding, even what I learned in Israel, was like, wait a second. Osama bin Laden's brother, Khalid bin Mahfouz, was the head of the BCCI. He was very close to the CIA. I mean, the connection.
BCCI goes back to the Clintons as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
back in Arkansas.
Absolutely correct. And actually, the Clintons themselves and the entire administration, while he was governor, were heavily involved in CIA activities and helping them cover up some of their operations, their black ops. And it's just it fascinated me that nobody was talking about the questions of, wait a second, this is a man trained by the CIA. Then I started delving into it, and I made a film called Core Corruption, which just won Best Documentary of the Year, American International Film Festival.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was kind of like, now I can say I'm an award-winning documentary filmmaker.
You know what? In my mind, you've always been an award-winning documentarian.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, I'm working on the sequel. Some people know about that. And one of the points I'm bringing up in the sequel, a lot of people don't know about. It's still kind of even in the truth community. Two of the hijackers were staying in Langley just before the attacks. And nobody talks about that. It's very, very, very odd.
Maybe they just want to stay in a nice hotel.
Yeah. I think the ratio is if you walk around Langley, 8 out of 10 people you're going to meet work for the agency. So, I mean, when they say, oh, these guys were under the radar, we didn't see them. Of all places, that's definitely the place you don't want to go.
Well, yeah.
It's very suspicious.
It's kind of interesting. So, I have found, I hate being called a conspiracy theorist because I like to delve into facts. You hear all sorts of things about Martians taking over people's bodies and hybrids and all sorts of crazy different conspiracies. I don't like to delve into that kind of stuff. I like to delve into the fact that government documents show a lot of the stuff that people in the truth community kind of allege. I mean, it's not like people are just pulling this stuff out of thin air. There's a great thing called freedom of information requests. Now, how I really kind of got interested in conspiracies and things is when I started paying attention and I learned how to do freedom of information requests myself. And as an activist, especially here in Colorado, I do a lot of what they call Colorado Open Records Act requests, which are the same thing as FOIA on the federal level. And when you start getting documents even from the state and local governments, you start finding things that don't match up or support the official stories coming out of our governments. Now, I tell you, folks, I'll even give you a great example on a local level. I'm not saying a conspiracy, but red light cameras, which I detest red light cameras. I think they're unconstitutional. I believe they violate the 6th Amendment of the Constitution, your right to face your accuser in court. But we did some CORA, or Colorado Open Record Act requests, and found out that at every accident, or every intersection where these things go, accidents increase. Now, they were sold and are sold as safety tools. They make us safer. They make the roads safer when they increase accidents. But the ironic thing is these things generate more money. So is it a conspiracy that the government's telling us one thing and the other happens? And I believe that that's not necessarily a conspiracy. It's just the fact is government lies to us. They lie to us for a variety of reasons. And once you understand that government lies to us, and then you start following the money, and then you start going down these rabbit holes, and then it makes a lot more sense how government functions. Right. Jonathan, I come from the premise now that I believe that government serves one function, one main function, and that function is to act as a transfer mechanism of wealth from the private individuals to politically connected corporations and unions.
I agree with that.
I believe that's what government...
Unfortunately, that's what it's become. It wasn't always like that.
It wasn't always like that. And I'm not saying... I'm not an anarchist. I'm more of a minarchist. But I do believe we need some government. But what I do believe is that that's what government's role is now in our country. And if you look at any regulation, pretty much every regulation that's passed at any local, state, federal government agency, any law basically serves to transfer money from individual taxpayers to someone who's politically connected.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people would call me a conspiracy nut for thinking that. And then people call me wacky all the time, paranoid, what have you. But if you actually apply that lens to every government problem, government actually makes sense.
Well, there's this belief, I have a lot of friends and family who work for different agencies in different parts of the government, and there's this belief going around that that the U.S. definitely has, but most of the Western world, that there's this kind of need to know basis and your right to know and a privilege to know, and there's this really practiced tradition right now of not just classified material, but this belief that if you do not have this classification, you're not privy to this knowledge, and so they lie to the people because they feel, there's these analysts and these estimates that are given saying that, well, the people are incapable of understanding, comprehending this. They really believe for the betterment of the people, they shouldn't be told certain things because they may not understand, how to react to information. So they don't tell us everything. There's a lot of stuff that's classified, and that's fine. But in a world of classification, there's obviously going to be stuff that they don't tell us and they're going to have to lie about. So at some point, there have to be conspiracies because we know there's classified intel. When we're at war, there's going to be there's black ops, there's assassination programs, there's torture, there's things they can't afford the people to know. And they've told us we can't tell you, so we're going to lie about it. So the question is, What is that stuff they don't want us to know? And that's where you people like you and me come in, where we're discussing what we think maybe that information is.
Well, how much did George Bush spend just on, not even in the regular mainstream media, but just with bloggers and things, paying off people to spread propaganda?
Billions of dollars. The propaganda is huge.
And so...
It's all documented.
And I think Rumsfeld even came out and said that we will lie to you.
Yep,
it's in war and terror, deception.
Yep.
So when the government outright tells you, one, they're going to lie to you, and then Bush has a special... I mean, he had a special department of propaganda in his White House that was paying off major bloggers and writers and, TV folks. I mean, this is all admitted, and I'm not trying to sound like a paranoid guy. This stuff is stuff you can
documented.
find.
It's
documented.
That's not paranoia. Paranoia is when you're convinced. I mean, at some point, people start thinking, they turn into schizos, and they start thinking people are watching them personally. This is all documented. We know about Operation Mockingbird. With the CIA director came out and said that every major person of influence in the media is either owned or working with the agency for reasons of national security. They had the editors at the New York Times, the Washington Post, they still have them today, because they have to ensure that if information hits these papers and it might be classified, they have to censor it.
Jonathan, I'm talking to Jonathan Elinoff, editor of the New World Report, and he's a award-winning documentary producer, and we're talking about conspiracy theories in the United States. Stay tuned; it's going to get really good. I'll be right back.
Truth, Liberty, and Independence, the Rob McNealy Program.
I love my new hardwood floors, and you will too. Thanks to Natural Wood Floors. They provide installation and sanding of hardwood floors. They did Tom Martino's hardwood floors and are ready to give you a free estimate. Call Rob McNealy at 303-257-2980.
No one loves do-it-yourself projects more than I do, but you never want to cut or drill into a wall without knowing what's behind it. That's why I choose Zircon Corporation. As the #1 electronic hand tool company in the world, Zircon Super Tools help keep me and my crews safe and out of harm's way. From stud sensors and laser levels to metal detectors and electrical wiring sensors, sturdy and dependable Zircon tools are all I use. So whether renovating or redecorating, ask for Zircon by name at your local home improvement store. And should someone say, haven't seen you in a while, tell them, that's cause every time I come by, all the Zircon stud finders go off. Just kidding. Sort of. From odd jobs around the house to those bigger fall projects where you need a helping hand, it's good to know Zircon tools are within your reach and help you get the job done safely. Electronic tools are all they make, so they simply make them better. Remember, before any wall gets worked on, you'd better get a Zircon.
I miss little Vincent so much. He loved to play baseball. I was driving him to practice. I guess I was busy making eyes at the guy driving next to me. I didn't notice he was sticking his head out the window, his blonde hair blowing in the wind.
Honey, Vince's hair was black.
That's not the point. We're lucky he was adopted, so we just got another. It's my life, and I don't want to forget anything.
Documenting every moment of life is very important. Take plenty of pictures of your wife. You never know when she might leave you for another man. It's important to document your happiness while it lasts. And use Vakari Film when your son wins the game, when your daughter gets herpes. Vakari Film. Memories are forever. Sort of.
Welcome back to the Rob McNealy Program.
When I get the time, I like to sit down and write a little rhyme for you. Just a couple few. I tell you what you mean to me.
Hey, all right. Today we're talking about conspiracy theories, and my special guest is Jonathan Elinoff. He is the editor of NewWorldOrderReport.com. He's a documentary film producer. He's got several great projects in the works right now, and today we're going to talk about a couple of those projects. So for the break, we're kind of talking about how government actually does lie to us, and basically it's documented. It's not even just paranoia anymore. We can find the documents that Rumsfeld and the Bush administration has specifically even outright said they're going to lie to us to fight the war on terror. But currently you're working on a few projects, and one of the things that I'm real excited about, Jonathan, is the fact that you're exposing things that I think a lot of people aren't really looking at. And the number one thing that I fight, especially as a libertarian and a former libertarian candidate, is this concept of the right versus left, the Republican versus Democrat, conservative versus liberal, and I fight on a regular basis to expose that it's all BS. I tell people that's a false paradigm. The true paradigm, in my opinion, is the governments, corporations, and unions versus us, everybody. And that's really the true paradigm as I see it. So tell me about your new video that you got coming out.
TheMadDivide.com, and it's the film's called The Mad Divide, and it's basically it's exploring a history of media, censorship, propaganda, the control of the debates, the history of the Republican and Democratic